Hi, today we're looking at photographing purple sandpipers. I made a film recently about turnstones. Well, purple sandpipers and turnstones, very similar birds, live in the same habitat on these rocky foreshores where they feed amongst the seaweed and the debris coming in from the tide. They're only here during the winter months, and they're very tame and approachable, just like turnstones. The big difference is nowhere near so common. They're quite scarce, so you've got to do a bit of research to find out where they are, but there's plenty of guidebooks that will tell you where your local purple sandpipers are. This is one of the places. It's a very well known spot for purple sandpiper. It's in Northumberland, just north of Bamborough Castle. If you can find the Stag Rocks, and I think it's called the Stag Rocks to compete with the White Horse from Wiltshire. This is Northumberland's version of the White Horse. Then on these rocks around this area you'll find purple sandpipers. It took me about 2 hours to find them yesterday, and probably about 2 hours this morning to find them as well. And then the difficulty of getting close to them, not because they're nervous birds, they're not, they're very obliging. It's because the rocks are quite big, covered in seaweed, very slippy. I found it very awkward, and he kept losing the birds in the seaweed as well. They weren't very photogenic, but eventually I got them in an area where it was no seaweed and a very attractive floor, and that's what you're looking for all the time photographically. You can photograph a bird anywhere. It's waiting until you get that bird into an attractive position with nice light. It's lovely soft light today as well. When I first started, it was an outgoing tide, and various species of gulls, but mostly black-headed, were gathering around various little pools where food had clearly got trapped as the tide went out. And large flocks of cormorants also coming in close, gathering up the food that's left behind the tide. It did take me a while to find the purple sandpiper, and I really started off by looking for turnstones because they're much easier to see. The turnstone has got a more contrasted plumage, and it's also got bright orange legs, and they tend to stand out. The purple sandpiper has got yellowish legs, and they don't stand out nearly so much as the turnstone. That's a turnstone in the background. Slightly larger bird as well. But if you can find the flocks of turnstone, hopefully there's going to be purple sandpipers with them. Once you've found them, they're easy enough to get close to. So you can see the colours of a purple sandpiper really merge into the vegetation far more than the turnstone does. I really want this bird to come up on top of this ridge. That will separate it from the background. That's a bit better. They're more widespread the further north you go, so on the Scottish coast you're more likely to find purple sandpiper, but they're also found in Norfolk and Devon and Cornwall. And so you just Google it, wherever you are, type in Norfolk purple sandpiper and you'll find reference to them and where you can go and find them. Shooting with the Sony A1 and the 200 to 600mm zoom, mostly with a 1.4 extender on. This was the area where I was happiest photographing them. It's still seaweed, but it's flattened down. And I also like the birds when they're at the water's edge as well, when the waves are washing in. It makes a more interesting picture. But fortunately they did linger in this area, so I probably had the best part of 30 minutes photography in the place that I felt was the most photogenic. Amongst the larger seaweed they really do get lost. I have photographed purple sandpiper in other places, and I actually don't feel this site in Northumberland is the best place to do them. The rocks are just too big and difficult to get around the beach, very slippy. Probably the easiest place I found for them was on the Shetlands, but I don't get there every day. There's probably hundreds of turnstones there, and I think 4 purple sandpipers was the most that I saw at one time. The turnstone just gone across to the left. Always an easy bird to photograph, turnstones. Not shy at all. These days I tend to take video first, and then if the bird is still there I swap over, start taking stills pictures. Now I don't particularly like that picture because the bird is against the background, is merging into the background. You really want him higher up. That's a bit better. Now there's nothing behind the bird other than water that separates him. That's almost there, it's just the bill is touching the vegetation. And I'm quite happy with that shot as well. He's separated from the background. But on the whole, they weren't climbing up on high objects. That was probably my favourite stills picture. So now I'll show you some pictures I've taken on a previous trip to the same location, where they were getting right up on tops of the rocks, and this was much better photographically. The shutter speed for this picture was 2/1000th of a second, but it's almost irrelevant. It could have been 500th of a second, you wouldn't be able to tell any difference. But when the waves came crashing across, I deliberately went for a faster shutter speed, so I was shooting around 4/1000ths to 6/1000ths of a second, trying to capture the water as it bubbled over and expecting the bird to leap up in the air, which they didn't do. Thanks for watching.